Greetings, my noble knights. It is I, Blaze Templar, and as you might have been able to notice, we've actually had a little bit of technical difficulties lately. So, my computer unfortunately decided, you know what, I am going to crash and I'm going to make you have to reinstall everything. So all my settings on Elgato, on my capture card, on my Roxio capture card, everything is gone. My OBS has to be completely restored, and so I've actually had a lot of trouble getting this all set back up. But that being said, I think I finally got a lot of the settings fixed, and so let's talk Pokemon Unite. Now, this game recently came out, as you may be aware, and it is what's called MOBA, or a multiplayer online battle arena. This is basically you choose a hero, and you go across 2 or 3 lanes, in this case 2, and try to push to your opponent's goal of securing objectives, etc. Now this one's a little different, as you're actually scoring actual goals with like a basketball point system, which is kind of neat. But this particular game has, like any MOBA, varying types of Pokemon, and so every Pokemon plays a little differently. So let's go ahead and get started on how to play every one of these Pokemon. Now, this series can actually technically go on for pretty much ever, as long as this game has a life cycle. So, say 5-10 years down the road, if this game is still popular enough, they may be releasing like Medicham or something, where it's been years and years and they're still releasing Pokemon. So this could go on for a very long time. I don't think I'll be making videos that long for it, but you get the idea. Anyway, this particular game, we're going to start with Pikachu, as it's a novice Pokemon, and it's the mascot of Pokemon, so it makes sense to just start here. So, what is Pikachu? Pikachu is a ranged attacker, as they call him in this game. This would be a ranged assassin in almost every other MOBA, and that's the term I'm going to be using simply because I'll say it even if I don't want to, just because I've played enough MOBAs long enough that I would have trouble otherwise. And so, what are Pikachu's strengths and weaknesses? How do you play Pikachu? So, Pikachu, as you can probably tell, is extremely powerful on the offensive front. Like, if you look, I'm going to move over here for a moment. If you look, its offense is almost to the max. Its endurance is terrible. It has just average mobility. It's not great at scoring, and its support is awful. So, you can kind of see where Pikachu shines. It's on that offensive pressure. Now, what this means is he wants to stay back and do as much damage as possible. Now, this can form into 2 different ways of playing Pikachu. You have the single target assassin role, and you have the ranged poke role. So we're going to talk about the single target assassin role first, and how they're similar and different at the same time. So, at level 4, you get to select one of these 2 moves to replace Thunder Shock. The first is either Electro Ball or Thunder. These are the 2 options you have, and depending on if you're going for the focused single target assassin or if you're going for the ranged target, you're going to select one of those moves. So for the single target assassin role, you're going to want Electro Ball. This a 5-second cooldown is extremely short. Respect just how quick this is. And so the other thing that's really neat about Electro Ball is actually 2 things outside of its quick cooldown. Second, it can never miss. So if this thing that's fired off at a target is going to hit them, there's nothing they can do about that. And just as important, like the Pokemon move Brine, where, you know, in Pokemon, if you're using Brine and it's above half health, it only does 60 base power, but if it's below that, it doubles in power to 120. Electro Ball is kind of like this, except it scales. So the higher their HP is, the less damage it does. But as it gets lower and lower and lower, it's kind of like Toxic, where the longer the Pokemon's in, the more and more toxic damage they take. Same basic principle, but with an attack instead. So, kind of like Metronome 2, where the item, where if you just keep using the same move over and over again, it does more damage. Except in this case, it's all HP dependent. So, then at level 6, you get to select either Volt Tackle or Thunderbolt. For the the single target assassin role, we're going to want Volt Tackle because 1, this move hits incredibly hard, and 2, just as importantly, this move will buy Electro Ball just enough time to charge back up so you can fire off another. So what you typically want to do when you're ready to get a target is go for the Electro Ball, hit them with the Volt Tackle, and then your Electro Ball should be almost off cooldown, if not on cooldown at that point. Hit them with that Electro Ball, and if you've timed it right, that should take them out. If it doesn't, you might be in a little bit of trouble, but we'll get into that in a bit. So I will go ahead and show off that basic playstyle of Pikachu, where it's just, we're going for the single target assassin roll. Now, a single target assassin roll, you're probably going to want to choose items that help your mobility, like the Float Stone, because, again, Pikachu's mobility is just terrible. You may consider Eject Button or X Attack, just to boost your attack stats. X Speed's not a bad option either. And then, of course, something like Shell Bell or boosting attack items like the Muscle Band or Wise Glasses. Those are all great choices. I'm not messing with them right now, but I would recommend you consider them. I haven't played Pikachu in a little while competitively, and I just had those items at the time. So that's kind of why they're set there, and I don't feel like messing with them, but those are kinds of items I would recommend considering. Items that boost your HP or defense, not necessarily bad, but Pikachu is so frail that it really struggles to get the most benefit out of those. So I'd recommend items like the Wise Glasses, like the Shell Bell, like the Float Stone. Especially Float Stone, that's just probably the best item in the game. But anyway, as you can see, this Pikachu has a great, this is an insane range for a single Pokemon, might I say. So we're going to go into settings, wrong settings, practice options. And we're going to boost up all the way to max so we can kind of show off everything. And we're going to boost up our opponent to max as well. And then get equipped. We're going for the single target assassin. So left there, set everything. Left, left. Okay, we're all set. So how it plays is poke, poke, okay, boom, and then go for the Volt Tackle if you need to. So that's kind of how it plays. Poke, poke. And as you can see, our Electro Ball doesn't quite perfect there, but it's close. So as you can see, I'm kind of using Volt Tackle to buy Electro Ball more time to cool down. And that's kind of the point there. And you can use Volt Tackle as that finisher, and it worked out perfectly for us in that case. But as you can see, Pikachu hits incredibly hard. But yeah, you really want to kind of use Electro Ball more for the finisher. Volt Tackle just kind of buys you the time, and it does hit respectable, and it does get you back to where you started. So it's still a very good utility move. But yeah, that's kind of how Pikachu as a ranged assassin, or the single target assassin, will function. Just constantly hitting as quickly as it can and as hard as it can. And it doesn't want to take the damage, so you poke away, go for that Electro Ball, then Volt Tackle away. So that's kind of its playstyle. Now, this situation right here is incredibly bad, actually. You don't want that to happen, because if that happens, your Pikachu is dead. But you can see, Electro Ball just keeps amping up the damage, and boom, you're done, you're good there. But that kind of shows how Pikachu really functions. And I don't need to keep doing that over and over again, as you can kind of see the basic play style of that, where it's the Electro Ball into the Volt Tackle, into Electro Ball, and hopefully that's enough. If you need to, go for your ultimate, the LZ button, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, LZ. I don't play the Switch as much as the PS4, so I wanted to call it L2. But that's how that Pikachu plays. Now, the other Pikachu is the ranged poke assassin. This one rewards more patient play. This is the type of Pikachu that you can't just rush in and try to get a bunch of kills. It's more methodical, much more slow, and steady paced. It's great in certain situations, especially if you know your team is able to clump up your opponents, so you can drop Thunder on them, or if you just need to area denial, like, oh, I know they're going to want to go for Zapdos at this point, and I know where they're going to clump up. Boom, drop the Thunder, do a ton of damage, and force them into a different path. Things like that. And there are other options too, but this is one that requires a much more patient playstyle. And if you're not willing to go patient, you're probably not going to like the ranged Poke Assassin. And with it, what you're going to want is Thunder and Thunderbolt. Now, this obviously is a slower attacking type because it's 8 seconds cooldown and another 8-second cooldown. So either one is slower than the other, especially after Volt Tackle upgrades. I think it's a 3-second cooldown reduction for Volt Tackle, but even if it's only 2 seconds, that's still not enough to perform there. So, like, if it's only 2 seconds, it ties. So, at best, Thunderbolt equals Volt Tackle in the speed department after the upgrade. So, overall, this is a slower assassin-type build, but it plays, and so it also plays very differently. But we'll go ahead and talk about it in the actual game. So, we're going to choose our items, and in this one, you may consider eject button, you may consider X speed, but considering this particular Pikachu doesn't want to be getting out too far into the field until it knows it can comfortably, you're probably going to be fine with even Potion or X attack, something that just boosts its attack power or gives it just that additional smidgen of survivability. Excuse me, I can't talk today. I've tried to record this 5 times thanks to OBS problems. But anyway, similar items are definitely considerable on the options, like your Wise Glasses. You can consider dropping Shed Bell or whatever. There are tons of options, although I do recommend always having Float Stone on every Pokemon simply because it's such a big mobility booster. But outside of that, this Pikachu kind of wants to sit back and be a little more passive, and what I mean by that, a lot more patient. So you have to have the right mindset to be willing to be this patient to get it. You can't go chasing down targets with this. If they escape after a certain point, you just kind of have to let them go. You're not able to chase them down and get secure kills nearly as efficiently as with a single target assassin. So don't try. You're just going to hurt yourself if you do. So boosting up to max again, just so I can demonstrate. That should be enough. So Thunder and Thunderbolt, get that move added in, boost and boost. Okay, so here we are, all set. So this particular Pikachu plays, like I said, a little bit different. So just like before, you're going to start with your R attack, your Thunder. But then you're immediately going to follow it up with Thunderbolt because it can actually stop your opponent and make them take additional damage in Thunder's radius. Because this is actually pretty easy to avoid to some degree if you're playing carefully. Now, another thing, you are doing this kind of, I'm staying at a distance, poking away. I am going to accept that I'm not probably going to get you killed right now, and that's fine. I am just going to constantly poke until I know I can get that kill. And at this point, I may actually be able to get it, but if you notice, because I didn't have Thunderbolt on cooldown, I couldn't actually stop him. And so that's why you kind of want to have Thunderbolt ready as well, and you have to be a little more patient with your moves. Because their timing isn't the same. And that can actually cost you a potential KO. Now, this does look terrible, but what I've done is essentially bullied out Slowbro, because he knows he can't get close enough to kill me. And while I can't actually kill him yet, this lane is all mine. There's not much you can do about it. This is just my territory now. If he wants to do something about it, he probably needs a friend. And see, I'm just bullying him right out of the lane. This is the great value that this particular Pikachu style has. Sure, I'm not getting the kills, but I'm staying typically out of the way far enough that I'm not in too much trouble. Unless, of course, I let myself get hit by like his ultimate like that and get stunned. But that is just an insanely good ultimate, to be honest. You don't really want that to happen. As you can tell there, by comboing the Thunder and Thunderbolt there, I actually was able to force a lot more damage than I would have otherwise gotten. And so, that's kind of how this Pikachu is going to continue to play. Just this constant, steady focus. And again, you're not trying to immediately get kills with this Pikachu. This is a lane bully in a lot of times. It's area denial focused on just getting as much damage as possible and keeping control of an area. And this Pikachu is amazing at that. Sure, I'm not getting the kills, like I said, but what is Slowbro gonna do to me? Sure, he can escape, but he can't really hurt me, and so this lane is mine. And eventually, there will come a point where I will get that kill, whether he wants me to or not. Especially if I keep pressuring Pokemon like Rotom here. Yeah, and so that's kind of how this Pikachu goes. It focuses. It's just this constant, steady, aggressive play that just buys you more and more area until all of a sudden, hey look, this lane is already pretty much all mine. So that's kind of how the two Pikachu styles play. One is going to get the majority of the KOs. The other one is going to be more of the lane bully where it pokes, denies, and if it can get the kill, it will get the kill. But that's not as much of its focus. And so it really depends on what your team needs and how you like to play. And to say that that Pikachu can't get kills would be a drastic and just ridiculous fallacy to say. That Pikachu is perfectly capable of getting the kills. That's not its focus as much. It's still an assassin. It can certainly get those kills, but it's denying that entire lane to that Pokemon. And so either A, they're going to have to gang up on that Pikachu, which in that case, it's just going to retreat back to its goalpost where it's getting healed, getting defenses. It can go, hey, I need a forward tank, and then keep pushing in again with that forward tank because you're not able to kill Slowbro in the time it takes Pikachu to kill you. That's just not going to happen. And so you can see they're very wildly different playstyles, but they both have incredible value. And so that's why I think Pikachu is one of the better Pokemon in the roster. I love that Pokemon. It's just so powerful and worth considering. And so, yeah, that ranged Poke Assassin may be the most supportive that Pikachu could ever hope to be. So that's kind of how it plays out. So if you want someone who just constantly gets kills as quickly as possible, single assassin targeter with the Electro Ball, with the Volt Tackle. If you want someone who can be a lane bully, who provides utility with Thunder, with area denial, slows opponents down with Thunderbolt, you want your ranged Poke Assassin. So it kind of depends on what your playstyle is. And honestly, I prefer the ranged Poke Assassin because I think it does more overall, even if it doesn't get as many kills. But that's just me. They're both incredibly useful, extremely versatile, and extremely deadly, as long as you can respect just how squishy Pikachu actually is. If you can do that, Pikachu will serve you well. But until next time, goodbye.